Hey, True Believers, Englentine here, and while I was looking for something from the long box that might have a little Christmas spirit to it, I ran across Marvel Team Up #1 and realized this is one of those Christmas comics that don't advertise that it's a Christmas comic, and I thought it might be fun for you kids to check out. So, kick back, relax, and let's get this Christmas party started. 'Tis the day before Christmas, and all along the sand not a creature is stirring, save the polar bear clan. Sure, we know it's not much of a rhyme, but we've got to start this story somewhere, don't we? Hey man, yeah, you're right, you got to start it somewhere, but are you sure you want to start it on a dad bod belly and butt? Or perhaps we should start with Peter Parker. Brrr, he says. I'm still not sure if Jameson really wants pics of that crew for his Christmas Eve edition, or if this is just his idea of a late April Fool's joke. But I've got to have bread for my late date with Gwenny, so... Oh, they're off and running. Anyhow, actually, I shouldn't make fun of them. I'm the one whose teeth are chattering, and they don't even have spider powers. Nope, they're old, and they've long since given up on life. The polar bear crowd just rushes out into the ocean, only to have one lady go, "Eek, something alive just brushed past my leg. It's some kind of snake or tentacle, but it's made of sand. Get me out of here." A snake? No, but a tentacle? Yes. A tentacle indeed made of sand, which spirals cylindrically upward, then begins to shape itself into something far more sinister. It's a man, and I know who he is. He's the Sandman. That's my name, sister. Don't wear it out. Excuse me, I just remembered a dental appointment in the Bronx. Gang way, they say as they all rush out of the water and away from the beach and away from the Sandman. Oh, and if you're wondering why the Sandman was in the ocean, way back in The Incredible Hulk 138, the Sandman and the Hulk actually had a fight where the Hulk used his super strength to cause a whirlpool and make Sandman dissipate into the ocean. And the book continues as cops come. They try to put handcuffs on the Sandman because he still has a warrant for his arrest, but of course he's made of sand, so the cuffs go right on through his hands. And seeing the handcuffs go through his hands, the cops say, "Get him!" And they both jump at him, of course, going through him because, as the cop says, he's like a human sandcastle. Meanwhile, Peter Parker ducks behind a refreshments building to change into a Spider-Man outfit. Good thing I wore my costume under my threads for warmth. Only thing now is, I'm really cold. Well, here's one way to get the old blood moving, Spidey. It's called action. And this is why Batman's the better hero. He always comes prepared.
Naturally, you didn't know I was wearing my special Super Thermal B long underwear for extreme cold.
So Spidey swings into action, and as he does, he says, "You've squeezed the breath out of them, Sandy, but even if they're at a loss for words, I'm not exactly the tongue-tied type." And the Sandman gets kicked yelling, "Spider, Merg!" Not Merg, man, sloppy Sandman, really sloppy. Sandman strikes back. "What's wrong? No more smart cracks now that your baby blues are full of sand?" "Just say nighty-night, insect, 'cause I've got nothing to say to you, creep." So his eye coverings don't stop sand from getting in? Anywho, Spider-Man starts fighting back and he says, "Except that you're way down on the list of people I dig spending Christmas Eve with," and this causes Sandman to take a step back. Says, "Christmas Eve?" Spider-Man says, "Hey, you are out of touch, aren't you, big man? That little piece of news shook you up so much you let yourself get all captured." "Shut up, I ain't got time to mess with you, not now." And Spider-Man replies, "Yeah, well, I'd like to know what you're gonna do." But before Spider-Man can finish his sentence, the Sandman disappears into the beach, and Spider-Man's like, "Dude, he's dangerous. He's got to be found fast. And I think I know just who can do that little thing." And of course, as Spider-Man is swinging away, the cops are like, "Hold it, pal, we want to talk to you." But Spider-Man swings away thinking of a date he has a little bit later with Miss Gwendolyn. And then he says something pretty cool that not a lot of people know. He says, "After all, Sandman isn't my enemy. I just tackled him once, and that was a long time ago. Far as I'm concerned, he's someone else's headache now. And I know just who that someone is. And what's more, they can have him." Spidey says as fire rings come towards him. It is something, though, that someone we think of as a main Spider-Man villain originally did not start that way. Spider-Man starts to fall, cursing out Johnny Storm for some reason. I mean, how's Johnny Storm supposed to know Spider-Man's out there? And he says this much. Hey, sorry, Spider-Man, I didn't know you were out there. Come on in. And Spider-Man's like, what's with you, Torch? You're being halfway civil. And where's the rest of your far-out foursome? It's Christmas Eve, you know. So they tell me. Johnny says he's not with the rest of the Fantastic Four because he's got girl problems. Spider-Man says, you and the rest of the civilized world. And then he says, well, maybe this little tidbit will take your mind off your troubles. The Sandman. And then Spider-Man says something that is just incredibly out of character to his core. The Sandman, says Johnny Storm, then what are you doing here? Why aren't you? I go, whoa, fella, he's not my responsibility. I just dropped by to clue you in and let you take it from there. I'm sorry, what's the core lesson of Spider-Man again? With great power comes great something or other? So they talk a bit about how they both fought Sandman, and Johnny Storm says, wait a second. In Jersey, that's where I first met old Beachhead. Well, not in Jersey exactly, it was more like on the top of George Washington Bridge, but he was heading into the city from that side of the Hudson River. Spidey mentions that's where he first met the Sandman as well, so Spider-Man goes, whoa, wait a second, I've got a hunt. So they take one of the older Fantastic cars to go search for Sandman, passing by some Christmas decorations. Johnny says, look, don't wish me a Merry Christmas, I'm not in the mood. And finally they reach the bridge, and it says, no Sandman, but that's just the first part of my hunch anyway. Try cruising over to the Jersey side for a minute, okay? We interrupt this story to remind you that if you do like these videos, please consider clicking like, share, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe. Johnny says, your wish is my command, Sahib, but would you mind telling me what? And Spider-Man says, come on, use your head for something besides a hat rack. If Sandy was headed towards Manhattan to look for me, could be he had a hideout over on the Jersey side of the river. Of course, that was a few years back, but it is the closest thing we've got to a lead, and besides, yeah, I know. What else am I doing tonight anyway? Well, the search bears no real fruit, but as they're about to give up, Spider-Man notices it seems a woman's about to get mugged. Spider-Man says he wishes he could see better, because apparently he's done a couple of false arrests. Johnny Storm lights up the sky, and Spidey says, Torchy, if you ever need a job as a firefly, look me up. That one doesn't even make sense. I lived in northern Florida for a while, North Carolina. I've seen some fireflies. They don't light up except for what's near them. It's not like, hey, okay, now you got a job as a firefly. Not that fireflies have jobs. So light up the city. You can't. Fireflies can't do that. Not a firefly, anyway. I could be thinking about this a little too much. But he does light up the area, and we see that, yes, indeed, that woman's being mugged, and the guys are making off with her packages. Johnny flips the car nose down and begins to swoop on the criminals, while Spider-Man flips the bottom of it and says, hey, leave the heavy stuff to me. And Spider-Man webs up the apparent muggers. And Spider-Man gives the lady a choice on what to do with them, and instead of jail, she just asks, can you just keep them here for a while? Because it is Christmas Eve. So Spider-Man webs up the criminals. The lady actually says Merry Christmas to the people who tried to rob her, and then says, you too, Web Weaver, and your friend in the flying bathtub. Merry Christmas. Spider-Man jumps into the Fantastic car. They have words, and then Spider-Man notices he's starting to burst into flames. Huh? Why the flames, Storm? Look down there, Johnny says. Johnny, seeing a truck sliding out on the ice, decides that Spider-Man does not have the power to stop him, so he yells, flame on! And jumps out of the Fantastic car, Spider-Man saying, oh, whoa, in case you forgot, I don't know how to pilot this cockamamie crate. And the Human Torch starts flying faster than the truck so he can melt the ice in front of it, giving the truck some time to get his brakes to start working. All because, and I kid you not, this is what the Human Torch says, he's heading towards a parked Corvette up ahead. And here I thought Trans Ams were the popular car of the 70s. The Torch gets a little nervous as he sees this truck is still sliding, but thankfully he comes to a stop right before it hits the Corvette with, by the way, people inside. Yep, it's something they tell him Merry Christmas, but he doesn't have any time or even want to hear that kind of stuff, so he says, just buy yourself a new set of threads, okay? He actually says treads. I read that wrong. When Storm gets back to Spider-Man, Spidey tries to tell him off, but Johnny's having none of it, and he says, man, I'll leave you right here. right in the heart of Newark if you don't watch your lip, because I've had it up to here with all this Merry Christmas crud. Look, I'm dumping you off the first spiderweb, man, and I'm heading home. Spider-Man says, suits me, hothead. It's starting to snow anyhow. Johnny Storm says, that tears it. Hang on to your web shooters while I... Oh, no. There's the Sandman. Spider-Man says, I could tell you're all choked up about it, Storm. Just put me down on this roof like a good little manic depressive. Okay, now you can go back and cry into your uncola while I... Not on your life, glory grabber. After all this work, I'm going to be in on the... Have it your own way, Spidey says. And we see Spider-Man creeping up on the Sandman as the Human Torch comes to the front of him. Greetings, Green Sleeves, Torch says. Thought we'd never catch up with you, huh? Sandman says, only thing you're going to catch, Firebolt, is a death of cold. And you can make that heavy on the death. Funny, man. Human Torch says, here, buddy, enough heat to turn a walking sandbox like you into a mirror. At the same time, Spider-Man was swinging towards the Sandman, but had to stop just right as he was about to kick him because of the fireballs thrown at the Sandman. Sandman grabs onto Spider-Man's foot. Spider-Man, long time no see, pal. But that don't mean I forgot how to handle a punk like you. It's like riding a bike. Don't ask me how I know this. I just do. And I know for a fact that beating a man to death is not like riding a bike. So Spider-Man gets knocked for a loop and the Human Torch burns the support on a large sign which falls towards the Sandman. No, not when, Sandman says. But the Sandman has a button. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Not since the wizard helped me rig up these little buttons which turn me hard faster and you could say cement block.
So we're just done with phrasing, right? That's not a thing anymore?
And after the Sandman is done being hard, he decides to become a sandstorm and basically put the flames out on Johnny Storm. Johnny falls, but before he hits the ground, Spider-Man catches him in a web net. Which, why doesn't Johnny, stick to it? I guess he can burn out of it. Okay, I answered my own question. Johnny says, thanks, Webhead, and now before we're both a couple of basket cases, let's rush him while he's back in his normal state. So they both make a leap towards the Sandman. Sandman says, only thing, guys, it's too dark and you're both too wiped out to notice that I made the old bod paper thin and was standing right in front of a solid brick wall. Kinda gets you right there, doesn't it? And we see the two heroes take what looks like concussion-giving damage. And the two heroes begin to wake up from their maybe concussions. Sandman says, back from Dreamland already, huh? Glad to hear it, because you two crumb bums are about to go for a little moonlight swim. But you just keep your chin up, Torchy, and you'll be okay. Yeah, this is comics for you, and I know what you're thinking. The same thing I'm thinking. Why didn't he just throw them in the river before they woke up? Give them some cement shoes and goodbye, heroes. But he didn't, and the Sandman does try to make his escape and says, oh yeah, and one more little thing, Merry Christmas, suckers, he says as he jumps off the water tower. Spider-Man says, oh, they're in the water tower. Okay, it wasn't the ocean. Sandy may talk like a poor man's Cagney, but he sure... Wait a minute, something he said. Gotta check it out, but the way he's got us tied, only one of us can breathe at a time, so gotta dope this out in a hurry before my partner drowns on me. And we hear moans from Johnny Storm. Spider-Man looks below, says, I was right, just one rope holding us this way. Too weak to break free. The torch is our only chance now. If he doesn't figure it out and fast, we've had it. Johnny Storm wakes up. I don't get it. Spidey's a lot stronger than I am. Why is he staying down so long when we could... Sure, that's it. He wanted my face out of water long enough to dry just enough so that my body heat could start it blazing again, and I could do this, he says, and he starts to burn the rope. Spidey, are you... He says, can't complain, hothead, and I almost never did again. They wait for Johnny Storm to dry just long enough for him to break the ropes that hold him tied up. And he says, well, too bad the Sandman's long gone by now. Spider-Man replies, actually, I've got a strong hunch he isn't. I think he wanted us to escape from the water tank. Remember what he said as he tossed us in? Spider-Man says, keep your chin up, Torchy. Huh? But why in blazes would he... We'll soon know, pal, Spider-Man says. Look! They see the Sandman crawling into a window. I gotta admit it, I'm stumped, says Spider-Man. What's he after in this two-story bungalow? Only one way to find out, Human Torch says. The two heroes go through the same window at the same time. That is one hell of a big window. So the heroes jump in. Human Torch says, heads up, Beach Boy. This is the... Sandman silences him. Shh, don't talk so loud, will ya? I'll come along peaceful like in a minute. Spider-Man whispers back, all right, you got us both whispering. Now spill the big mystery before we... Sandman says, okay, just keep it down. I'll be in a second, Mom. And his mother says, don't be too long, William. Mom, Johnny says. Sandman fesses up, all right, son, you know my secret. That's my mom in there. She's old, she's sick. And I always come see her on Christmas Eve no matter what. The docs never told her I was a crook, so don't spoil it for me this Christmas, huh? Spider-Man said, well, all things considered. You got yourself a deal, Sandy, Human Torch says. Thanks, guys. Hold it, fella. You can't go in there without a present, Spider-Man says and hands him up. Sandman promises that he'll be back and he'll waltz back into jail like a little lamb. Spider-Man swings to the outside of the house to keep an eye, make sure that Sandman doesn't try to escape, and says that the present was for Gwen, but the Sandman's mother reminded him of Aunt May, and he just had to take a chance on it. Johnny and Spidey get lost in her thoughts until Spidey points out that it's been longer than 5 minutes, so they start to search when Sandman's mom's nurse comes in and says, I'm Miss Baker's nurse. She points out that the Sandman's mother fell asleep. There's sand in the sink. Looks like he escaped. And they just say, hey, look, in honor of Christmas Eve, we'll get him next time. And the book ends on this. The Human Torch saying, but tonight, just for tonight, I feel good. And he flames out, peace on earth, goodwill to men in the sky. And that's what it's all about, right? Amen, brother. Amen. The end.